Hey guys, it's Peanut Ice Cream Bar. This is my pre-work mocktail, so I have lots and lots of energy to talk to a bunch of people. So I've been meaning to catch up with Daichi's character videos, but I've been so busy, and I just went to look at everything I wanted to say about his current backstory and realized, oh my gosh, I had planned to do another laugh video. If you don't remember that, I don't blame you, because it was probably somewhere around like 4 months ago when I made that video. But basically it was going to be another backstory video about this kind of world called Io that all of my doll stories take place in. Without that background information, there is a lot in his current backstory that just will not make much sense. So I'm going to try and talk about his backstory. I mean, here's the thing. When you get up in the morning and you have to style your hair, I then do not want to get up and also style Daichi's hair. So I guess the first thing I have to talk to you guys about is kind of like the supernatural and how it affects characters in my writings, my musings, my ballads. So basically there are two types of people, and these are humans and like a natural witch. And the difference between these two types of people is that a human is born with barriers, natural barriers against the supernatural. So they have a very hard time perceiving and thus believing in any kind of supernatural phenomena. If you want to play a fun and deadly game, take a shot every time I use the word supernatural in this video. Natural witches, however, are born without these barriers. And these barriers are a natural thing that your body just does. It just makes them. It's just like how when you are born and all of a sudden your lungs are like, hey, how about oxygen? When you're born, your body's like, hey, how about barriers against the supernatural? It just happens. So we have, on one end of the spectrum, we have a natural witch who is born without any barriers against the supernatural. We have a human who is born with barriers against the supernatural, and then we have an anodyne, which is what Daichi is, who is someone who has those natural barriers against the supernatural, but it actually goes a step further than that, in that they not only have a barrier against it, but they actually have the ability to dampen supernatural effects on other people. Now, most anodynes never know what they are, right? In fact, most natural witches don't even know what they are. Most natural witches aren't born with a super high degree of power, and most of the power they are born with, because they do have the ability to sort of wield magic, most of that, however, goes toward making those barriers that would occur naturally in a human, because that is what their human body wants to do. So the human body's like, I can't make this with my own stuff, I'm gonna use my supernatural abilities to make those barriers, and that's where all of their power goes to. So most natural witches are not really that different from humans at all. But Daichi, he is special. And by special, I mean just especially unlucky, in that he happens to come across a boy who is a natural witch, who is a bit of an anomaly. Natural witches with incredibly high levels of power, of natural aptitude, are not you know, all-powerful godlike beings. You know, they really can't do much. In fact, their power actually overwhelms their human body, so they are usually actually handicapped by that intense level of power, of ability, rather than actually being able to use it for anything. So they're often sick, oftentimes they pass away at a young age, and Daichi just happened to come across a boy named Clifford, who was such an anomaly. And Daichi's body, of course, performed its natural function as an anodyne, which, for this case, we're going to liken it to a water filter. So normally supernatural energy would be kind of like dirt, and all of the stuff that humans can perceive is like water. And when it goes through the filter, which is the anodyne, then only water comes out. Only the stuff that you can comprehend comes out of it. However, in the case of Clifford, it's not just some dirt, some little specks of dirt, it's like a thick sludge. So when Daichi tries to process Clifford's supernaturalness, he actually becomes ill himself. So at this point we have to kind of introduce a whole nother thing having to do with Lath that I might make a video on this one day, I don't know, we'll see. So Lath has some pretty interesting families in it, and one of its kind of prominent families is the Eglin family, who on the sly, on the DL, has a sort of program for people with supernatural afflictions. One such person to come out of this program is called Eri, who you might remember from earlier Daichi backstories, and he becomes a researcher employed by the Eglins who researches the effects of the supernatural and the paranormal on the natural world, the physical effect. And he is a person of the mindset that if the natural world can affect the supernatural, that must mean that the supernatural is really just part of the natural world that we have not been able to explain yet, but could explain someday. He comes across Daichi, and he kind of has a guess as to what happened to Daichi. Over quite a period of time, Eri develops a relationship with Daichi's parents and convinces them that he is kind of like an alternative healer, like a holistic medicine sort of guy, who can take better care of Daichi than the hospital can. And, you know, mounting bills, other kids to take care of, and when Eri is taking care of Daichi, there does seem to be a bit of a difference. They decide, yes, he can go to this clinic that Eri tells them about that's going to help him get all better. Of course, this isn't exactly 100% truthful. I mean, Eri does want to make Daichi get better. He has an idea that an anodyne is kind of like a muscle, so he thinks if it's torn and rebuilt, it'll actually be stronger, and he's really interested in studying that force because usually what you come across is the supernatural affecting the natural. But in this case, it is a natural force affecting a supernatural force that usually does not occur. So he thinks that it's kind of like the key to unlocking what, like the kind of the origin of the supernatural in the natural world, and how does that relationship work. He's kind of like a physicist looking for a theory of everything, you know, he's kind of that. So he does want to take care of Daichi, he does want Daichi to get better, however, he's not taking him to a clinic. He's making a medicine for him, helping Daichi get better, but he's actually taking Daichi with him on a lot of his travels, because he has to travel for work a lot, and slowly, as he heals him, slowly exposing him to different supernatural phenomena just to see how he's reacting to them. And now there is a place where Daichi stays because Daichi can't travel all the time because he was in a coma for quite some time and he needs things like physical therapy and speech therapy, and really that experience with Clifford kind of wiped him almost all the way. He's almost entirely a clean slate, and he does visit with his parents from time to time, but he never remembers them. He doesn't recall their voices, their faces, anything. He heals physically fairly quickly, but emotionally and mentally it takes him quite a bit longer to get back to where he was supposed to be, and he has never got caught up to the age he is supposed to be. And he does learn faster than someone who's learning something for the first time, but a lot of his relearning and a lot of his therapy is with Eri. Though Eri is not a fatherly type of person, he does not have those kind of child-rearing instincts. He's always very clear with Daichi that they are not related. Eventually, after, my timeline's not super clear yet, but I think it's about 5 years after Eri has taken Daichi from the hospital, from his parents' care, I should say, from the hospital's care. He is invited by the Eglins to live in an anodyne house. Now, an anodyne house is another thing that the Eglins do for people with supernatural afflictions, and it sounds exactly like what it is. It is a building, and they employ anodynes like Daichi to live there, and then people with supernatural afflictions go there so their affliction is lesser. It's dampened because the anodyne lives there as well. So they want him to go there to study the inhabitants, and also because he's been traveling for a long time and they think they're doing something nice for him by saying like, here, you don't have to travel so much anymore, you don't need to be on the go 24/7, aren't we great, aren't we nice, good employers, yay us. Rate us high on Glassdoor or whatever that website is. Just kidding, they don't want a paper trail. Now we're getting to kind of a convergence of other stories. So this Anodyne house is run by Tybalt. Tybalt is a character that I used to have in doll form, and I'm still in the process of reshelling him, so obviously it's going great. It's been like 2 years, maybe 3. Aerie does not know that Tybalt is actually from the Eglin family. The Eglin family is very prominent in the city of Lath, so Tybalt, who is kind of a removed relative, actually goes by the last name Lindsay. So when Aerie goes, he goes with Daichi. And Tybalt just offhand mentions to his uncle, more prominent member of the Eglin family, also the owner of the building, that Aerie brought his kid with him. His uncle knows that Aerie does not have children and definitely cannot have a child as old as Daichi, and kind of the whole thing comes out into the open. They talk to him about how he was able to, you know, kind of keep up this charade for so long. And basically, without going too much into where this was happening, because that's like a whole other thing, by having his parents come to the clinic to see him, and, you know, visits over the years became less frequent, his parents need to move on from a period of grief, right? In their mind, Daichi is not ever remembered them. They feel like they've lost him, they have other kids to look after. Visits become infrequent, and that's how he's able to get away with this for so long. Of course, the Eglins are really not fond of kidnapping, which is basically what happened. They tell him he has to fix it. Like, they can't get involved because they're not about to risk their reputation, and they're not about to put all this, like, supernatural business anywhere with their name attached to it. And they also don't want to be attached to Aerie because they do employ him, and they don't want to be attached to, like, hey, the Eglins employed a guy who kidnapped a child, how great. They don't want any of that business, so they're like, you gotta fix this. You gotta fix this right now. And Aerie has a connection with some kind of shady people. We're gonna call them swans right now. We're gonna call them swans. And through swans, he is able to get a body similar to Daichi. Tells his parents, you know, Daichi relapsed, unfortunately he passed away. Very sad for them, but also one of those sort of expected things. At least he's not suffering anymore. They never knew how much better he got. When they would visit him, Aerie would ensure that he would not be at his healthiest, I suppose you would say, so he could keep up the illusion that Daichi needs to be at the clinic with him. For them, it would definitely be like a, at least now he's at peace sort of thing. The Eglins are not at all happy with it being handled in that way, but they really can't say anything to him other than, you are the most fired that fired can be, and we need you to sign this restraining order. What in the hell is wrong with you? Further disgruntled noises. Aerie has one last surprise though. Daichi is still not fully cured from his run-in with Clifford. He still needs to take that medicine that only Aerie knows how to make for years to come, until he's fully healed from that, until he's out of danger of relapsing. So they have to wait until Aerie can train another person to make this medicine, to make sure that this kid, who now they're kind of taking care of and trying to figure out what the hell to do with since his parents think he's dead. And the new person they bring in is Mene, who I think is going to be the next character in this series of character videos. Mene comes in, Aerie teaches him how to make this medicine, and then Aerie spirits away forever and ever and ever. I think I'm going to do one more video with Daichi, kind of trying to explain his current character a little bit more, rather than just really quickly trying to run through a backstory where you guys have almost no prior information as to what any of that was. Anyway, I gotta go to work, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!